Hello, everybody. Welcome to our early Monday Comics Review Show. I'm Jason,
I'm Andy.
and we're with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. So every Monday after our store is done bagging and boarding the comics, we pull aside the ones that we most want to read, the ones we think more people want to know about. We read them, and then we do a spoiler light review. So we're going to tell you sort of if there's any major first appearances, sort of collectability reasons to read the comics. But more than that, we're going to tell you more about what these comics are. So when you go in your store on Wednesday, you're going to know a lot more than the solicitation says. So pretty big week this week. I think
Yeah.
we're going to go over roughly 28 comics and all their variants and incentives. So without further ado, let's jump in.
Yeah, it was hard to pick where to start this week, but one book really stood out to me, and it's not just because I'm a major Aquaman fan, but this book is pretty incredible. So this is Aquaman Andromeda. This is as you can see, a black label Prestige Plus. Is that what it's called?
Yes, Prestige Plus.
Plus. So it's a magazine size. You can see that kind of creepy version of Aquaman on cover. This is written by Ram V, and the art is by Christian Ward. And if you're familiar with Christian Ward's art, he has he's kind of run the gamut from very bright fluorescence, like the book Odyssey with, I believe, Matt Fraction that he did a few years ago for Image. Very moody, watercolory, that kind of thing. And like I say, this is the best use of his art I've seen. So, what is Aquaman Andromeda? This is definitely a black label. This does have some language in it. Aquaman, but a horror book. And in the sense of horror, I would most put it towards something like Alien, elements of like The Abyss, things like that, where there is a team. The Andromeda is kind of a submersible, not necessarily a submarine. It's a little bit more maneuverable than that. And something has crashed into the ocean from space to a place called Point Nemo, which is the location furthest away from any human civilization. It's where like NASA drops a lot of their satellites and stuff, so there's no fear of it hitting anything. But this thing has crashed there, and they are sending the Andromeda out to possibly. There's rumors that this could be alien, and they want to make first contact with it. But of course, with anything like Alien or whatever, not everything's on the up and up with the organization that's doing this. So that is one side of it, is this ship, the Andromeda, going down to the lowest reaches of the sea. You get a lot about the crew, which is really cool. A lot of different personalities on board. The other side is this is an Aquaman book. So what is up with Aquaman? He has, as he describes it, felt a shift in the water, or a change. Something has happened, and it no longer feels familiar or safe to him. And he is also going to try to figure out what has happened at Point Nemo. So you have these two converging storylines, and you'll have to see where it goes. But there's, I would say, more sea creatures and other things than just this weird, possibly alien thing that happens. It could be kind of disturbing stuff around it as well.
How many issues is this going to be?
I believe.
I think it's 3 issues.
I think it's 3. That seems to be kind of they're new for these kind of miniseries. 3. Super atmospheric. Christian Ward's art for the depths of the ocean is so good, because there's like one scene where you see the ship, the Andromeda, going, and then in the distance, you don't notice it at first, but you see the outlines of whales and stuff like that. It's kind of like, he does very good with the depth and perspective and the very creepy, alone feeling of underwater. Highly recommend this. So I was kind of reading other people's stuff, like people who've pre-read this and what they were saying, and some were saying, this is Aquaman's Dark Knight Returns, or Aquaman's All-Star Superman. So this, if it continues the way it is, could be a pretty definitive Aquaman story. Not that it's an origin or anything, but just the Aquaman story that when somebody says, hey, what is a good Aquaman story, you can point to this one. So, highly recommend this one. It was probably my favorite read of the week. Um, Completely different feeling for an Aquaman book, but very welcomed. Very, there's a lot of narrative in it. The narrative is very almost Lovecraftian, kind of weird fiction, very descriptive and relating one thing to another thing. Really builds up atmosphere. So I highly recommend Aquaman Andromeda. And usually I don't love this magazine size just because it's kind of inconvenient. But reading this one, I really had no problem. I see why it was in this one. It works perfect for the format and everything.
Yeah, the art has to make it make sense.
Yes, if you read one, you're like, this is just kind of standard comic book art, then you kind of wonder why they did it. This one really lets the art breathe with some really beautiful scenes. So this is your A cover. And then we have the, here is the B cover, which I believe is Brian Hitch. And, you know, I thought, oh, that armor Aquaman's wearing, it must, you know, be something weird or something supernatural. No, it's just whatever he's rocking in this series. It's a very weird organic armor that kind of shows you that you're outside of the norm. It's like, I don't think Superman maybe exists in this universe, because when the way they talk about aliens is still very like foreign and everything. This is a one Aquaman world.
I mean, at the same time, Superman, he might be an alien, but he's become, you know, one of us.
Right.
So, okay, so I'm going to start out with a DC book. So I read Batman issue 124. So this marks the last issue that is being done by Joshua Williamson, and this is the first issue that follows Shadow War. So Shadow War is all over. And in this issue, it kind of catches you up with where everyone is. It talks a lot about where did Robin and Talia go, and what's Ghostmaker up to with Batman Inc. But the main story is it seems that Abyss is back. Now, that's that villain that appeared a while back during this Williamson run, who was killing people, and Batman had to confront him, and it turned out it all had to do with Batman Inc. Well, it seemed like Abyss was sort of done for. Like, Batman had gotten rid of Abyss. I'm not going to completely ruin it for people who didn't read that storyline, but Abyss, not exactly dead, but, like, not coming back.
Yeah.
Well, in this, Abyss seems to be back, but is it really Abyss? That's sort of the question that you'll find out when you read this. And at the same time, there's a part in this where Batman has to go partially into his origin tale and relate it to somebody else who has to make the choice on if it's right to kill somebody who may deserve it in a sense. You know, like somebody who's done some atrocious things. Is it okay for them to kill? And so Batman has to talk with them about this. There's a backup story with Poison Ivy, and the backup story with Poison Ivy is a direct lead-in to her miniseries that I'll be going over later.
Oh, okay, cool.
So, yeah, I didn't know that was going to be in there. So, sort of a surprise little lead-in to the Poison Ivy miniseries. So that's generally what's going on Batman issue 124. So starting with next issue, it's going to be taken over by Chip Zdarsky and George Molina. Whole new team. I'm really looking forward to that. I can't wait to see what Zdarsky does with Batman. I think that we're going to get some really good, really different stories out of this. So, as much as I think Williamson was excellent for Batman, I think I'm more looking forward to Zdarsky. Williamson's writing like 20 things right now.
Yeah.
You know, you wonder how far you can take one person in their writing. I think Zdarsky is going to come with his A game, which he has quite an A game. So, that's what's going on with that, and that's a reason to look forward to the next issue as well. Here are the variants. We have the Delato variant. Very, very dark, as Delato is apt to do. Here is the Reader Pride variant. Pride Month variant. And then lastly, here is the Bertukin 1 in 25 that we're selling to our customers for $25 while supplies last.
Yeah, and I think Jimenez, too, is coming back for art from back from when he did Fear State and everything. So he hasn't completely left Batman, which a lot of people really liked his style, bringing kind of a pseudo anime feel to some of the stuff, but he had some great action scenes. Okay, next up is a interesting one to start with, because this is actually a reprint, but I feel like it is definitely noteworthy. This is Star Wars Krrsantan.
Well, now there's enough of them to pull it all together, and
Yeah.
people have a reason to want to know even more if they've been
Exactly.
watching
This
other
is
things.
perfect because also it's a lot to go back and try to piece all of his stories together. So this is a $7.99 one shot. This collects. Let me make sure I got it all right. This collects Star Wars 15 and 20. It's funny how they ordered this. Star Wars 15 and 20. Star Wars 14. I don't know why they don't say 14, 15, and 20.
I think they're going backwards.
Darth Vader 14 and 15. And all of Dr. Aphra Annual #1. So those are all very key appearances of Krrsantan. If you watched Book of Boba Fett and you thought that big, scary-looking Wookiee is a character I want to know more about, I'm sure you heard fans all over saying, oh, he's from the comics. This collects pretty much all you need to know about what he's been in. Doesn't actually have his first appearance, but his first appearance wasn't much. It was just in Darth Vader #1. So this collects kind of all his key appearances. Very cool, very thick book, plenty of reading there. And we have the variant for that one as well, which is the photo cover. Super cool. And wanted to tack onto that, we also do have out this week Star Wars #24, which is the final part of the story arc between Leia and Zara. And I think the next issue of this is going to be very big. It's called
Isn't it the anthology?
It's like across eras or whatever. You see the High Inquisitor on the cover, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Vader. I think that's going to be a really big issue for issue 25. So I'm guessing this next one's probably going to be a really good jumping on point if you haven't been reading it. And then this one has some really nice variants. We have the Yagawa variant for the Japanese creators. And we have the Sprouse Lucasfilm 50th anniversary with Ghost Luke and Force Ghost Leia.
Okay, so about a year ago, the Fortnite universe collided with DC as Batman followed Harley Quinn into something that took him to the Fortnite universe, where there were other people. Deathstroke was there, all that. Well, now Marvel is colliding with Fortnite, but Fortnite is coming to the Marvel universe in Fortnite X Marvel Zero War. So this is going to be a 5-issue miniseries, and these are bagged and sealed. So I have not read this yet. This releases on Wednesday. The reason they bag and seal it is because there is a downloadable digital code for Fortnite, just like they did with DC, which was wildly popular, where you can get stuff that you can only get this way, at least for a limited time. So for instance, this issue #1, if you use the digital Fortnite code, you get a Spider-Man outfit that you can only get this way. Now I think if you wait long enough, you can buy that outfit, but it takes a while. Now, some of the other issues I did read will have things you can only get this way. They'll never actually be purchasable in Fortnite. And if you get all 5 of the codes, you have to have all 5, you can unlock a special skin for Marvel Fortnite Zero War crossover. So I know, you remember, Andy, what happened with the DC one.
Yeah. I don't know if there was a single store that didn't under-order it, because we had people coming in for weeks and weeks asking if we had it.
Yep.
Once the news kind of spread out that it had the codes in it, all of that, people who'd never stepped foot in a comic book store came in to get that. So
yeah, and honestly, I read that one, and it was a fun little story. I don't know anything about the Fortnite universe,
good.
But it was kind of cool to see Batman using all his guile in a whole different universe where he couldn't speak at first.
Yeah, it's funny to see him, like, nothing really slows Batman down. You can take away his memory, his speech, and everything, and still he's going to come out the winner in the end.
Okay, so we got a couple variants for this here, and these are all sealed as well. This is the Senkowitz variant. So you could, if you prefer a variant, you could buy this and still get the digital code. Here is the Ron Lim variant. Then we have the Donald Mustard variant. So Donald Mustard is the creator of Fortnite. And we also have the 1 in 25 Cheong variant that we're selling to our customers for $25. And lastly, the big one, the 1 in 50 Cassidy variant that we're selling for $50.
So, comic book stores around the nation are batting down the hatches for the flood of Fortnite players rushing in to grab that.
I mean, it's great because some of the people who came in for DC Fortnite, they still come in. A few of those started reading other books. I mean, that's the whole thing. It, gets that cross-pollinate.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so next up I have another one that, I mean, when I was trying to pick which one to talk about this week, I mean, we've got a few, and here is Dark Crisis #1. It's finally here. The beginning, the official #1 for Dark Crisis. We had the Road to, we had the Free Comic Book Day, all that, but this is the actual #1. So, I will say this one still is very much of a setup book. And I think that's okay. If you have a series, you can't completely assume that people have read all your lead-ins, your Free Comic Book Day, and everything. So after the events of Justice League 75, the quote-unquote death of the Justice League, will, TBD about the Justice League, it is now up to the remaining heroes to fill in the gap left by the Justice League, which is pretty tough. I mean, they did the majority of the heavy lifting, but you still have characters like Wally West, you have Jonathan Kent, Superman, you have, in this one, we actually have the return of Hal Jordan, who has been off in space, doing Green Lantern stuff. He shows up and basically says, "What I miss." So that's our good way of Black Adam, who is the only surviving member of the previous Justice League, kind of gives him the lowdown on what happened with all the stuff in issue 75, all the stuff with Pariah and his dark army of villains, all of that. So you can get caught up right along with Hal Jordan in that scene, which I think is done really well. But I think biggest thing in this issue is John Kent knows he needs to put together his own Justice League. It was his father's responsibility to lead the Justice League before, and now he considers it his job to put one together. But he doesn't quite have the same rep that Superman did. He can't just ask anybody and they'll join him. So you see a fun scene of him going to a bunch of different people, trying to recruit them. And we'll say he gets a team. It may not be the prettiest team. It may be, not the first person he asked. It may be a couple down the line. But puts together a very interesting team. Meanwhile, we do have the stuff going on from the other side with the villains. You have to see what happens. I'm not going to give that away because that is a pretty big thing. But also, because the Justice League is gone, the villains are now kind of rising up together to take over. And Deathstroke is among them. Post Shadow War Deathstroke, I think, is going to be definitely the character you want to watch out for. He's going to be a big deal in this. There's some pretty major things that occur involving Teen Titans. You have to read it to find out, but I thought it was a good #1. I'm really looking forward to #2 and going forward to really see all of these elements collide. But I believe this event actually is going through December. So this is Dark Crisis for the rest of the year. So definitely get on board if you're planning on reading it. This is the A cover for that. We have the Capullo variant. We have the Jamal Engel variant, or Jamal Campbell, excuse me. We have the Bruno Redondo variant. I like they're just like, hey, people like Nightwing, let's just do a Nightwing cover. This could easily fit just on a variant for Nightwing. We have this one, which I did not see a whole lot of people talking about. This is the Jim Lee cover with all these multiverses all around from the DC TV shows and movies represented on the front and the back of this. So that one is really cool. We have the Yoon variant, or the Inhyuk Lee variant. And then, also wanted to show off that we do have the second printing of Justice League 75 out this week as well to catch you up for Dark Crisis.
Okay, so one of my favorite reads this week was Twig #2 from Scotty Young and Kyle Strom. So let's look at the cover. It looks like Twig and his little friend down there in the corner, Splat. It looks like they might be in some danger, maybe. Hard to say. The person on the cover is the Nectarmancer that you'll meet in the issue, which the character design of the Nectarmancer is incredible. When you see the full body and form of it, I think you'll enjoy it as much as I did. That was one of my favorite parts of the issue. So in last issue, Twig, of course, is taken over for his father in that he does these quests. He's never done one. It's his first quest, and he has to go to the Pathsayer to find out what the quest is. Well, when he got there at the end of last issue, the Pathsayer was dead. So this issue, you get to learn why, what might have happened there, and it has a great opening, like, quarter of the book, because Twig and Splat have to come up with how they'll do what the Pathsayer would have done. And we're talking like a wall of potions, some really complicated machine it would probably take decades to use, and you get to see how these two boneheads try to make it all work. It's both funny and sort of adorable. But in that, I mean, it's so hard to not compare this to like Jim Henson stuff.
Yeah.
Jim Henson sort of way. Just great. Just something you're reading and you're just smiling. You want to keep reading. So past that, he finally learns some of what his quest should be, and it takes him into mystical realms where they meet this Nectarmancer. You'll have to see how that goes, but I guarantee when you see the character design, I've already been showing them off around the store. I'm like, check this character out, and everyone's been pretty well impressed. So that's all I need to say on issue #2 of Twig. He learns a lot more about what his quest is going to be and how big and important it is, and even some of the fantastic places he'll eventually have to go. So, good follow-up issue at issue #1. I think this series is going to stay hot with the people who are wanting, something sort of like Bone,
Yeah.
but done in a whole different, imaginative, in his own way, Scotty Young series.
Is it a mini-series or is it ongoing?
I think it's ongoing.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
I could not remember.
As far as I know, it's ongoing. So here are the variants to that. There's a 1 in 10 Virgin variant. This is the 1 in 10 Strom Virgin variant we're selling for $10. Then here is the Momoko variant. Momoko likes drawing eyes.
There's a lot of Momoko eyes out there.
Yeah. And then there is a 1 in 25 of that. That's the Virgin Momoko variant that we're selling to our customers for $25. Oh, and I can't forget this one.
You can't forget the main man.
The Scotty Young cover. This does happen in the issue too.
I always love it when stuff on the cover actually happens. Yeah. Okay, so next up we talked about Artist Elite Primer Red. I believe, was that last week?
Your last week of the week before.
This is the next part. This is Artist Elite Primer Blue.
I think that was last week.
Yeah, and I think these are actually connecting covers for the two. So, Artist Elite is a new publisher book thing that I believe after this is actually going to be kind of an anthology magazine type style book. These aren't all individual comics. They're going to be, you get like a chapter of a few of them in each issue. We'll be talking about that when we learn more on the FOCs when those come up. But this is our second preview book of the characters and stories you're going to be getting in that. Just like the first one, this has kind of an introduction to each of the stories. Possibly here or there, it has 1 or 2 pages of either colored or not colored art from the book, some character designs, but most importantly, kind of the description of each of them. I really like the last one. If you're someone who likes kind of the behind the scenes type thing, you will like this. This one has our next round of creators and the properties they're going to be doing. So we have Final Boss from Tyler Kirkham. I know that's kind of one of the big ones coming out from this. We have a book called Belong by Freddie Williams II. We have Death Watch from Chad Harden, who I really like, worked on Harley Quinn a long time. We have Apotheosis from Jordan Gunderson. We have Red Ronin from Dexter Soy, which I think is funny. Dexter Soy was the longtime artist on Red Hood and the Outlaws, and his character on this looks a lot like Red Hood. Must have got very comfortable drawing that. And the one I thought was the funniest is the final one here called the Sand Winches. And it is a team of possibly spies, kind of an elite ops team that are all female characters, are each represented by an ingredient on a sandwich, and their ship is kind of a flying turkey breast. There's a character that's based on cheese, the one based on tomatoes, one based on pickles. You'll have to see it. It's by Ali Garza. Looks very fun, so I'm looking forward to reading all those stories later when the actual thing comes out. But if you want to get a sampling of them, Artist Elite Primer Blue is out this Wednesday.
Characters based on sandwiches. It's either insanity or genius. You be the judge.
You be the judge.
So Artist Elite, they are a new publishing house, and it's sort of like their new universe. And this is their way to introduce all the characters that they're going to do. Who knows what sort of projects with, like, anthology, but possibly series for characters.
Yeah.
I think based off of popularity. So, okay, I read in her new miniseries, Poison Ivy #1. So this is going to be a 6-issue miniseries, and I've stated Batman issue 124 that also comes out the exact same day has a lead-in to this. You don't really need the lead-in. The lead-in just shows a little bit of the headspace she's in, and it shows where she gets a ride. In this, the ride's already gone. So it says right on the cover there, humanity had its chance, and we have Ivy surrounded by foliage, but she's eating a steak. I think this is representative, because this doesn't happen in it. I think this is representative of Ivy feeling towards humanity and all the killing she does. Because she does indeed kill people in this book. And I mean, like, flat out kill people. These are not like murders or anything. I mean, they're not. I guess 2 of them are kind of jerks, but 2 of them aren't even jerks, and she doesn't care because she has a plan. After what happened to her at the end of Joker War, she lost most of her power. She got turned back sort of into her old self. She is angry. She's rejected all of her friends. She's left Harley. So she is on a road trip, a self-destructive road trip, to put an end to humanity and possibly an end to herself, to, in her own vision, save the world. But of course, what is fun is being along for the ride, to see what's in your head. Why are you doing this? Because she's not being nice here. This is not anti-hero Poison Ivy. This isn't Poison Ivy who decided not to kill Gotham. And like I said, by the end of this book, she kills at least 4 people. So if that's the sort of thing that appeals to you, sort of getting into the villain's head, knowing they're not really holding back too much, that they have a master plan, how can it even be stopped, nobody even knows about it, that's sort of what is going on with Poison Ivy #1. This was written by G. Willow Wilson with art by Marcio Takara. Just remember, Harley doesn't hate individuals, she just hates when they gather. She hates society. That's her problem. Groups of people. But that's our nature.
Yeah.
We're not solitary beings. So we got some variants I want to show you on this.
So does this address, you said, like Fear State and what
Mhm.
happens with like Queen Ivy and all of that?
Yes.
Okay.
So it definitely addresses it, and that was already sort of dealt with,
Yeah.
where the gardener has taken her into two different pieces,
Mhm.
and this is the one that's like reset where she's lost her powers because she had like near godlike powers,
Yeah.
and in this one she's still angry and sort of intoxicated with what she's
Okay.
lost. So they don't shy from getting in her head. A lot of this is her thinking. Very very good art on it as well, though. So as far as the variants, we have the. Make sure this is the right one. Yes, this is the Anka Pride Month variant. And then we have the Warren Lou variant. She also thinks a lot about her and Harley's relationship, but she's pretty angry with her. Here is the Robles variant. It's 1 in 25 that we are selling for $15 while supplies last. And then here's the big one. The 1 in 50 Frank Cho variant. We're selling for $55. That's my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. Classic outfit. Frank Cho art. Very cool. Okay, so another big one that came out this week is Flashpoint Beyond #2. Now, this is a dark book. That's what surprised me so much about the first issue. It continues to be this way as Thomas Wayne is trying to figure out why he is back in, what we call the Flashpoint universe. To him, it's his main universe. He thought it was destroyed. He's back. He's trying to figure that out. As well as the Clockwork Killer continues to strike various people that they're trying to figure out as well. This is interesting because this has a very classic Jeff Johns thing that he likes to do is really is kind of a blackboard thing where he has a lot of ideas set up and just name drops here or there, and the more you look at it, the more you can maybe figure it out. But it does seem like things in this may be related all the way back to Infinite Crisis, be related to stuff even before that. May be related. I know a lot of people had a question in the beginning. Is this related at all to Watchmen and Doomsday Clock? There is a strong possibility after you read this one that you may see some connections to that as well. I think it's less of, is this Jeff Johns' sequel to Doomsday Clock? I think this is more Jeff Johns addressing this is related to everything. Everything DC related. I know there's something in here, I couldn't find it, that even relates to Dark Knights of Steel.
Wow.
So this is definitely like, it's not, the follow-up to one thing, it's a follow-up to everything. Also, you see the birth of a new Two-Face, which is very horrifying. And you get a return of probably one of the most interesting characters from Flashpoint, is Flashpoint Superman, that you will have to see. Don't get a lot of him, but very interesting character. So that is Flashpoint Beyond #2. And I also say there's kind of a... It's hard to say with a multiverse. There is a kind of major death in it, but it is a multiverse. There are multiples of characters, so... We also have the Zaramenko variant. We have this is a 1 in 25 Jason Fabok variant for $20. We have a Shoning variant. This is a 1 in 25. We're selling for $15. And we have a beach variant. This is a 1 in 50. We are selling for $25 with Pariah.
All right, yes. So this is a week where there's a new Venom and a new Thor. So lots of those characters, people that are just sort of on both from back from the Donny Cates day. Of course, this Venom um, is written either by Ram V or Al Ewan or both of them. This is an Al Ewan episode of Venom, which means you're going to follow Eddie Brock. It seems like he's doing the Brock stuff, and Ram V is doing the Dylan stuff. So let's check out the cover. We have, who is that on the cover wielding a sword? That is Kang. Not too often you see Kang in an issue
Yeah.
of Venom, and it looks like he's slicing Venom in half. Now, this exact thing does not happen, but there is a sword fight for sure between them, which it's like, how in the world's that going to happen? But so Eddie's consciousness is lost at the end of time, and he's kind of in a prison with all these other kings in black from across time, including Meridius, who it's hard to tell if he's a prisoner or if he's something more. Well, something happens in this issue, you'll have to read, that shakes Eddie's consciousness out of the prison momentarily, and he finds himself in the 602nd century inside of a symbiote, because that's sort of what Eddie can do, is he can possess symbiotes all across time. Now it seems like he doesn't have a very good grasp on how to do it. So he pops into a symbiote, and yes, it is a first appearance of a new symbiote. It is a war symbiote. So picture sort of like you're in your Venom's on you, but it's like War Machine armor. It turns into guns. Also, the symbiote, just the way it speaks in his head, is very much like a soldier, or maybe like a soldier's robotic ally. Really cool. You get to see a lot of it. I mean, it's not just like for an instant. This thing is around the whole issue. So in the 602nd century, Eddie runs into Kang. He's there. And him and Kang, they battle, they speak. It seems Kang knows Eddie very well through other dealings. So Al Ewan's really trying to elevate Eddie Brock by putting him sort of together with Kang quite a bit. So it's a really good issue, but I'll tell you, you'll enjoy it a lot more if you just sort of get on board with it. There's so much happening at once. I had to go back and read the first page or two, and then once I was like, I see what's happening, pretty much what I told you guys, it was actually quite an enjoyable read. So his consciousness gets slung into the 602nd century in a new symbiote. Go.
Okay.
That's the issue. So pretty cool issue of Venom. And then we have some variants, of course. We've got the In-Hyuk Lee scroll variant. And we have the Medina Fortnite variant. And then we have the 1 in 25 Segovia variant we're selling to our customers for $50.
Cool. I do want to point out, I got one thing wrong. These two incentives were actually for Dark Crisis. That's what happens when you have two big events going on at one time. You've got incentives out the wazoo. So yes, these two are actually for Dark Crisis. Okay, so next up, I have, make sure I got everything in order. We have Amazing Spider-Man number 3. So in legacy numbering, this is 897. So we're getting close to 900, which is going to be a very big issue. I'll say this is, if you were familiar with John Romita Jr.'s art, especially characters getting the snot beat out of them, which he does very well, that's a lot of what you're going to see in this with Spider-Man. So we do see in this a bit more of, we don't see Mary Jane, but the man that we're kind of wondering what is her new relation to Mary Jane that was revealed in the first issue. You see a bit more of him, and it seems like he's not that bad of a guy, which makes it even harder to root against him, is he seems pretty good. So we see more of that. We're getting further along in the Tombstone story, but this definitely feels like I don't know, we're trying to get to 900. 900's the big one. So this is kind of a smaller scale story, just kind of introducing the new status quo, we do get a really cool backstory on Tombstone when he was a kid, why he has sharp, pointy teeth, all of that. It's very interesting. So that is Amazing Spider-Man number 3, or 897. Then we have the Yusugi Scroll variant. And we have the 1 in 25 Garen variant that we are selling for $20. Unfortunately, this giant multi-eyed creature does not appear in this issue.
Yeah, that is too bad.
Okay. I really
Okay,
want to see that.
so coming out tomorrow is DC Pride for 2022 for Pride Month. So this is 12 different stories by 12 different creative teams. And it's celebration of Pride Month featuring LGBTQI plus characters. I did read all 12 stories, okay? So I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but let me give you some examples. So there's a story where Jay Nakamura makes a new Pride cape for Kal-El.
John Kent.
For Jonathan Kent, yeah. So that's the first story, which is really good. I thought that was a really good lead-in story for Pride Month. Nubia confesses about what really happened during a battle before her first kiss. Elisa Yo has to partially take on the Batgirl mantle to save Barbara Gordon. Jackson Hyde goes on a date in New Mexico. So it's a very fish out of water story. Like literally, where's the water around here? Joe Mullen does some detective work in a very far off sector, like real weird, deep space. The Ray, he goes on a mission before a movie date night. Then there's a story with Kate Kane. Tim Drake has a story. Connor Hawke, Harley, Ivy, Kid Quick. And there's a surprise appearance at the very end by Teen Justice, which also out this week, Andy will be going over, is Multiversity Teen Justice #1. So they're also in DC Pride. So that's a little snippet on the many little stories that you can read about in DC Pride this coming out tomorrow. So let me show you the variant. So this is the main one. This is the Bartel variant. So originally DC had this listed as a 1 in 25, meaning it would not be cover price.
Mm-hmm.
And people were not happy about that, including us retailers, because it's an awesome cover.
Yeah.
So they went back to the drawing board, they opened up orders again, and they made it open order. So this is just the same price as the main cover. This is probably my favorite one. So this is the Jem Bartel now open order variant. Then you have the Sway variant.
That one's very cool too. It's a front and a back.
Yep, it does wrap around. And that's all of them. I believe there is a Virgin variant for the Bartel, but I think ours was already spoken for.
Okay, so speaking of, you want to call it Young Justice. It's Teen Justice, Multiversity Teen Justice #1. This is a mini-series. And what is this all about? So, this is, some people want to say this is like a gender-bent universe, Earth 11. That's true to some extent, but it's like in this, Robin is not like a gender-bent Damian Wayne. It's Talia is Robin. And so it's more of like they replaced characters. So in this, we have a girl shows up in New York City named Gigi. Her name's actually Georgia, but she goes by Gigi. She is very down on her luck. All she has is a piece of paper she says when she was younger she thought was a treasure map. Now she says she hopes it just leads to maybe some good food or something. Like, you could tell she's really kind of given up all hope and she's just trying to get by. Well, when she reaches New York, she runs into a big battle of Teen Justice versus... Who are they fighting in this? I believe it's the Church of Blood. which is a classic Teen Titans villain group.
They sound bad.
Yeah, yeah. So they're fighting, but it's more of just like to get you in on like each of the characters get something to say, so you kind of get familiarized with them. These are not these characters' first appearances, and I'll get to that in a minute. Um, but you get a little bit with the new Raven character, who apparently has denied their invite to join Teen Justice multiple times, but he says it still doesn't mean he doesn't want to be a superhero. He just doesn't want to do it with them. So he's investigating. But Gigi actually takes down a couple of the bad guys in this, and they're all like, "Hey, you're pretty good," all this stuff, and she's like, "Yeah, don't bother me," or whatever. So she goes on her way. But what it looks like is the Church of Blood um, has been recruiting new people to join their cult, and Gigi attends one of their meetings. So very dark stuff, but it is very cool to see these new characters, represented in this. You get their characters fleshed out a little bit more, um, and also in this issue, you do get a reprint of Kid Quick's first story from that DC holiday
The holiday special.
holiday
the
special.
Winter special.
Yes, there is a reprint of that at the end of this to kind of catch you up on everything.
DC Merry Multiverse.
That's it.
Yeah.
The DC Merry Multiverse one shot from I guess like 2 years ago.
That sounds about right.
That is reprinting this. So if you've kind of got a hole in your heart where Young Justice was, or Teen Titans, this is a good remedy for that, with young heroes taking on big problems. Bunch of very interesting versions of characters. I really like the kind of combative but friendly relationship between this universe's version of Superboy or Supergirl and Robin. Kind of have that Super Sons relationship where they're friends, but they're also kind of trying to outdo each other. I'm really glad to see that kind of look back, because I really like that book. So, yep, that is Teen Justice #1. We have this is the Burn Pride Month variant. We have I really like this one. This is the Stephanie Hans variant with our new Robin. We have, of course, a blank sketch cover. And we have the 1 in 25 Bengal variant that we're selling to our customers for $20.
Okay, so I read Jane Foster and the Mighty Thor #1. So this is a 5-issue miniseries. Of course, Thor Love and Thunder is coming out in several weeks. So time for Jane Foster to have her own comic, which is pretty cool. But instead of just making her Thor again right away, they actually have a story to tell. So on the cover here, we see her. She's all got a thundered out with the hammer. And Thor has a lightning sword. This does not happen in the book at all. This is more like a promise as to maybe what is to come. That's how I would take it. Yeah, so instead, Jane Foster, she is real content to be Valkyrie. A lot of this is about how much she's more comfortable being Valkyrie than back when she had to be the God of Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of responsibility with that. Okay, so she's off just being Valkyrie, enjoying herself. She has very interesting powers that she's using to help things on Earth. Meanwhile, there is a villain. Now, this villain might be a first appearance. The villain has a mask that obscures most of their face, like basically from everything except their mouth and below. So hard to recognize them based on how they're dressed or the mask. So is it a first appearance? Is it a villain we'll know after they're unmasked? I don't know. But this villain is bringing together all the major villains who have ever gone against Asgard. At least most of them. At least one major villain, Asgardian villain, says, no, I'm not joining your thing. But this villain is uniting them all to take down Asgard, to kidnap Thor once and for all, and So that's part of what's going on in the story. So as Jane's just trying to be Valkyrie, all of a sudden Mjolnir crashes down near her, and she knows that Thor has been abducted. He's not coming back without her help. And so, will she pick up the hammer and become the god of thunder again, or the goddess of thunder again, or will she resist because she wants to stay Valkyrie even though she wants to help? That's the crux of what is going on in the first issue of Jane Foster and the Mighty Thor #1. And then, as far as variants, we have this Carnero Stormbreakers variant and the Peach Momoko variant. And we also have the, oh, here it is. It is the 1 in 25 Cocolo variant. We're selling for $25. And that's all of them. But I will say that things go so bad that actually, no, I've said enough. I've said enough.
Oh, you tease.
Yeah. No, I'm getting my Thors confused because I was thinking something on this Thor book that's coming up. But no, it's mainly Jane having to decide about, if she wants to take on that mantle again.
Okay, next up is one that I want to say I came in with one idea of and very quickly got turned the other way. So this is Skybound presents Afterschool #1. So when I saw this, I definitely thought, I knew it was kind of a horror, weird story. It's like going to be anthology style. Each issue is going to be a standalone story. I was definitely thinking Goosebumps. That's when you think of like young.
That cover, I mean, is channeling some of that feel.
This is not a kid's book. Don't be deceived by the cover with a young girl and her dog. This is much darker, especially in one of the first few scenes where she is dissecting a frog, and they have all the pieces laid out for you to see, and it's oozing, and it is not a pleasant thing to behold. So this is about a girl who has some troubles, and her parents think to help her out, a dog would be a good idea. So she gets this dog you see on the cover, very much loves this dog, goes with her everywhere. But what happens one day when she goes downstairs in the middle of the night and the dog is standing up in the kitchen smoking and cooking something in the microwave? That goes into what I put down is from a heartwarming story of a girl and her dog to a pseudo John Carpenter's The Thing style story. You have to read it to see. There's a lot of weird meat machines and other things going on here. It's got a little bit of language, so this is definitely not like your all-age R.L. Stine comic. This is much darker, but very cool that Skybound is doing this. This issue is written by Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, and the art is by Greg Hinkle. So definitely check this out if you like, your kind of one and done horror books. Art is great in this. Dialogue is really funny.
What do you think is darker, that or Stray Dogs?
Ooh, Stray Dogs is more, even though it has talking dogs, is more real. This is just like your like weird horror. Where this ends up is very weird. So
yeah, you've interested me because I didn't think that by the cover or even reading the solicitation, but that's what our show's about. Like, this is what it's actually.
After this, I'll have to show you a few pages that are like, oh yeah, that's real weird.
Okay, so I read Frank Frazetta's Death Dealer #2. So of course they have started sort of a Frank Frazetta universe. And this is the second issue where they're launching into that. I think they're going to do even some other titles that are based on Frank Frazetta's art. So in this one, the Death Dealer is trying to find the people who have kidnapped the child who he made friends with the mother and the child last issue, and they got kidnapped. He's trying to find them, and he goes and tries to get help from this young witch which this is an adult book. There is nudity in it. People just lounging around nude for no reason,
like the real world.
like Frazetta art. And the young witch proposes she knows more about the Death Dealer and his curse than he even does, and so they're gonna hopefully team up to try to get back this child. And of course, a lot of other cool things happen. He has to fight a humongous, I mean, like gigantic spider. So a lot of cool battles, as you would expect. There's also a page that has sort of an action figure, um, like shot of here's Death Dealer action figure, which we'll show you in a cover in a moment. So just want to make sure everyone knows Death Dealer #2 is out. A good issue. I thought the first issue was a really strong start to that first issue, especially just sort of the curse and all that. They don't get it back to that quite yet. Now the plot's like taking hold, but I want to know more on this curse. So check this out. This is the 1 in 5 action figure variant, which they also have a page of in the book. We're selling to our customers for $10. And then here is the 1 in 10 Sienkiewicz variant that we're selling to our customers for $20.
I love what he looks like on that cover.
Yeah, he's channeling the Frazetta quite nicely.
Okay, so next up, I have a book that I wish I could tell you more about, but I did not have a chance to fully read it. I just could skim it. This is Savage Avengers #2. This, of course, is the relaunch of Savage Avengers with Conan, Anti-Spawn. I'm not Anti-Spawn, Anti-Venom. Same creator. Elektra as Daredevil. You have all of the team together. And the one thing I will say about this also has Weapon H as one of the members. And it appears that Weapon H, he mentions at one point that he can manipulate his gamma power. And you'll have to see what that means. And I think it's actually, if they continue it, is a very interesting direction for that character to set him apart from kind of other Hulk-like characters. So you'll have to read it to check it out. I wish I could have read it all the way through, but we had a lot to read this week. We have some variants for it as well. We have the Ron Lim variant with Weapon H and Anti-Venom. And we have this super nice Jenny Frison Cloak and Dagger variant.
Okay, so I read Batman Killing Time issue #4. So on the cover, we have Batman. He's walking away from a motorcycle in flames. Behind him, you have the Help. And then look at that, a tiger's eyes. There's a lot of tiger fighting this one. And, last issue kind of ended off there a little bit. So this is by Tom King with art by David Marquez. So if you read the first 3, this is more of Tom King telling you this story in snippets through time. You know, every page or 2 pages is set in one time jump where it'll tell you, 5 days ago or today or a time. And, that's how it's been told. That's how he continues to tell it. And in this one, we learn more about the history of this object of power. So more of the ancient stuff without Tom King still saying outright what it is. And meanwhile, Batman and the Help form a very unlikely alliance. And of course, there is more on the Riddler and Catwoman. And Catwoman is full on, villain mode in this series. Mm-hmm. She kills some people in this issue. They're bad guys, but still, Batman wouldn't approve. So that's what's going on in Batman Killing Time issue #4. We have the Kill New variant with Batman fighting a tiger. Bat versus cat.
Okay, next up, I just want to show this one off because I've read it, but many years ago. This is Cyberforce #1. This is the 30th anniversary commemorative edition. So Image has been doing this just to celebrate 30 years of Image. This is a reprint of Cyberforce #1, but you do have some extra cool stuff at the end. You have some cool stuff, some retrospective stuff. You've got some alternate covers. You have a look at some of the original toys for Cyberforce. It's a lot of fun. So if you were a fan of Cyberforce, you still are, this is a cool one to pick up. Also wanted to note this because there is a variant. There's this variant with Velocity. Now, the thing about this variant is this is a $10 variant. So it's not a incentive or a ratio or anything, but it is priced up at $10. So be on the lookout for that. Don't grab it thinking you're getting the regular cover price.
Okay, so Thor issue number 26 is out this Wednesday. And this is the fourth part of the Banner War. So that's the second to last part, only one part to go. So on the cover, we've got Thor Hulk. Basically, it's Thor turned into Hulk. And look at that, he's hitting something there. It looks like a rainbow. I wonder what that could be. And I wonder if that's not a major part of the story, because it is. So in this one, regular Hulk is fighting Thor Hulk. And I mean, lots of epic splash pages, single splash pages, one or two double splash pages, a lot of action. Meanwhile, Tony Stark is kind of caught in the middle of this. He's trying everything he can to get whatever help he can. And some of that help may come from Asgard. But will they be able to help, or will Thor Hulk just bust up more things? There's some repercussions that are going to matter to Asgard at the end of this issue. That's what I was trying to say before with the other Thor book, with the other Jane Foster Thor book. But no, that's what we get for reading 14 comics in a row.
Yeah, we're both our comics are starting to mesh together.
But that's okay. Not all is lost, because Bruce Banner is still in Hulk's mind, and he has a plan. Him and Odin come up with a little scheme, and you'll have to see what that is and how that plays out in the latest issue of Thor, out this Wednesday, with more Banner War. And we've got the Shaw connecting variant. We've got the Cola Pride variant. And then the 1 in 25 Clark variant that we're selling for $25 to our customers.
Okay, we have our next issue of Batman Beyond Neo Year. Issue 2. What I really like about this is almost Batman Beyond Beyond. So we've had, all the previous Batman Beyond series kind of take place around the original show, with that cast of characters. But since the beginning of this, where there was the death of Bruce Wayne, we get a lot of kind of the next step in this world. So we do have Barbara Gordon, who is the police commissioner, is actually having her retirement party in this. So we're definitely getting in this series kind of a changing of the guard and everything. So this definitely takes place after all the previous ones. Now, this retirement is being thrown by Mr. Lumos, who is definitely a very untrustworthy character. If you've read the previous issues, he is very flashy, very city elite, and when they kind of question, well, who's going to step up and be the new police commissioner, who's going to do all this, he says, actually, I plan on buying the police, the GCPD, and even though Barbara's retiring, she's like, I will not let that happen. That has to be illegal. And he's like, if you have enough money, anything's legal. So that is part of this, is you're seeing the slow takeover of Mr. Lumos over the city. And Terry McGinnis has a run-in with a classic Batman Beyond animated series character that ends up slamming his face into a table. So I'll let you read it to see who it is and how that all goes down. Fun issue for Batman Beyond Neo Year number 2. And we have speaking of the artist from Aquaman Andromeda, this is the Christian Ward variant.
Okay, so coming out this Wednesday is We Live Age of Palladions number 3. So I read the first 2. This one I just sort of breezed through, and this is one of those ones, the We Lives are best to really take your time reading. So I just sort of breezed through it, and I noted, okay, this is going on my to read later list with all the stuff Andy read that I wanted to read, or that he reviewed, and I'm just like, yeah, I got to read that now. So I'll be reading this later tonight, but I just want everyone to know this is out. as of Wednesday, and it is just the one cover on this.
Okay, also to show off this is Spawn issue 330 with this great cover. Just going to show this one off. If you're reading Spawn, you'll know what's going on. We also have some variants for that. Of course, we have the blank black sketch cover that they've been doing for each of the books. And we have this super awesome revolver cover. It's a very anime look to it.
Okay, so Nubia has another miniseries starting. So this is Nubia, Queen of the Amazons. It's going to be a 4-issue series. So she had her coronation special, and now she is queen. And you see next to her, she's got Wonder Woman and Philippus, I believe is her name, who's next to her on the other side. So what is this about? So basically, DC has put a lot of time lately, all the writers who've done Wonder Woman, to expand the whole Amazonian thing. You know, it's like Batman's got this huge extended Bat family, and I feel like they're trying to do that in a lot of other areas of the DC universe. And I don't think this is a bad idea. So what this first issue shows is that Nubia is going to lead the 3 tribes very differently. They've always been very much sort of insulated, staying within themselves. Well, in this, they've created like a flying island. They fly up to the Justice League headquarters. They hold like a newscast. They go in, they meet the Justice League, which it is noted this happens before Justice League 75.
Okay.
So they wanted to make sure you knew the continuity of this. They are aware the Justice League currently are dead. This happened before then. But it's pretty cool. You get to see Nubia and some of the other Amazonians interact with Justice League members, including Batman, Green Arrow, some one-on-one interaction, and so many new characters. I read all this stuff, and it's hard for me to keep up with, but it's just because they're new and they've launched so many of them at once. But I have to commend that they really are trying to expand it all, and I do like that Nubia is leading them in this new direction. She's like, we're not hiding from the world anymore. We want to be out there. You have one of them who's updating her social media status. So they're just trying to get them out there as more of a force instead of just Wonder Woman being out there and the rest of them being, in the jungles and such. So that's a lot of what's going on. There's also the first appearance of a new nameless villain. Now this villain appears very quickly. Not a whole lot with them. You don't get a name. What are they doing? They're doing bad things. It's a setup for future issues. And of course, by the end of the issue, there is impending danger that happens. But the real thrust of the issue is their visit with the Justice League and Justice League headquarters, and just that Nubia is leading them in this whole different direction. So that's what's going on in Nubia, number 1 of a new 4-part series. And then we got some variants here. We have the Jay Lee and June Chung variant. And we have the Wada Pride variant.
Okay, and the last one up for me. Just want to show this off because this is the final issue of Oblivion Song, number 36. So, I remember back when Oblivion Song first started, the surprise that Oblivion Song was to stores. Finally coming to a close at issue 36. So it does bear to mention at the end, Robert Kirkman does bring up the idea of how Oblivion Song is going to continue in other media. He says it could be, what does he say, either
real soon
or in 10 years.
Or maybe a decade.
Yeah, so you know Kirkman's working on stuff. We just don't know how soon it will be. But this series coming to a close, as Kirkman's probably going to announce 15 more series. We'll have to see. But
yeah, 7 years is very respectable for an independent series to go on. 7 years and 36 issues with some amazing art. And a very, very cool story as well. Okay, so the last one we're going over, Legion of X number 2 comes out this Wednesday. So on the cover, we have the new character, Righteous Mother, who appeared at the very end of the last issue. And then there's Nightcrawler and Banshee, who's a bit of a part of this too. So this is more of Cy Spurrier taking these new characters he's created and doing a whole lot with them. So you've got, as I said, Mother Righteous there. You learn more about her powers. Her powers have to do, and it's still not clear, okay, because she's in it, but she's not like she goes, here's what my powers are.
Yeah.
They have something to do with taking ideas out of people, even if they don't want you to. So, there's a part where somebody can sort of view in the futures and they don't want to. And she's like, oh, too bad. You're going to do that. So I don't know the scope of her power, but it's neat. She's a very confident character, does what she wants character, and she may be doing a deal with Legion. Like, she actually has something that Legion might want, which is pretty neat. You get to see a possible future for Legion that leaves him with a very big choice. Past that, there is this skinwalker that basically can jump from mutant to mutant. They're trying to catch this person. There is a Martian Iraqi god who has apparently come to Krakoa. That weaponless Zen, who's also from Iraqi, is hunting down. So much going on. And I mean, that's what Cy Spurrier does. He did the same thing with Way of X. Here's some new characters. Okay, let's play with the playground.
Yeah.
But you got to be ready for a deep dive. I enjoyed it, but like it's not one you can breeze through at all. Nightcrawler, he may be the leader of the Legionnaires, but there's plenty of stuff going on with everyone. It truly is a group book. So just want to let you know, Legion of X #2 is out this Wednesday. We are out of the variant. Already gone to where I don't have one to show off. So
we need one of those Marvel Encyclopedia entries for that character to be like, okay, tell us exactly what this power does and how it's used and everything.
Yeah, and on a scale of 1 to 7, like the cards, where is it? So, all right, well, thank you all for watching. That is our show this Wednesday. We hope we have done our job in explaining what's going on in these comics so that when you go in your store, you're not overwhelmed to know what you want to buy, what you don't want to buy. That is what we try to do. It takes a while. I mean, we went through 28 comics and all the variants. But thanks to each and every one of you for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit subscribe so you catch all our other shows. And for those of you who are into buying comics, Megan will be doing a show for us on Whatnot tonight at 8 o'clock. So if you go on Whatnot at 8, look for the Infinity Flux channel. She'll be selling some of these incentive variants, I believe. And she also just has some older keys that she's doing. So we will see you on Friday with Comics from the Future. Have a good rest of your week.